Hello, my fellow crest-wearing companions, and welcome to another episode of Extra Time, the U.S. Men's National Team Soccer Podcast. And on this episode, we are wishing a special congratulations to the U.S. Men's National Team for being the first ever nation to host the Copa America and not make it out of the group. Greg Berhalter said he wanted to change the way the world perceived U.S. soccer. Boy, did he accomplish his mission. We are going to break down the United States' loss to Uruguay and their very poor group stage performance. The United States getting grouped in the Copa America that we are hosting 2024. All that is coming up. Stick around. All right, as expected, as Vegas predicted, as all of the odds and all of the pieces fell into place, with no surprises to anyone, all predictable, the United States loses to Uruguay in the final group stage game of the Copa America. The United States is out. This was the wildest emotional roller coaster that I have been on with this team in a very long time. Most of the emotion was coming off of the Panama game. And if you didn't get a chance to see that video is right here. Okay? The video is right there. You can hear all about that. You can listen to the rant. You can listen to, as I put it, a disgruntled fan yelling at the crest. Okay? Where to start with this game and this performance? It's been so hard because my mind has been all over the place for so long. I think the easiest way to break it down is just to kind of just start with like the raw emotions. From an emotional standpoint piece, the United States has had tons of games where there have been up and down roller coasters, where we've gone down a player or we've gone down early. You know, how many times in the against CONCACAF teams do we go down 1-0 at halftime and then we wait until the absolute last minute to tie it, and then the tie feels like a win, or wait till the absolute last minute to win the game and, you know, go ahead, and it's so frustrating. It builds excitement. Not in a good way, but if you have to be emotionally attached to a team, you sort of get, like, addicted's a bad word, but you get kind of hooked on these emotional moments. And the United States, statistically, over time, has been very, very good at repeating and replicating these very emotional moments. This game wasn't one of those emotional moments in that sense. This wasn't an emotional game because the United States lost. And it wasn't an emotional game because we got grouped. And it wasn't just an emotional game because, you know, we came back and won. We didn't come back and win. We didn't come back and tie the game. We didn't put on a poor performance. We didn't put on a great performance. Okay? So the unfortunate part of this game is you could watch this game and go, you know what? I thought the United States actually played pretty great, honestly. You know, I thought they played pretty well. I mean, that's Uruguay. They're one of the favorites. This would have been a great game in a knockout round. This would have been a great game had we beaten Panama. Had we beaten Bolivia 4-5-0. Had we beaten Panama 3-4-0. I would have been fine with this result. People would have been like, you know what happened? Imagine. Let's go back in time. Let's go to a little trip. Go back in time. The United States has beaten Panama 4-0. You just watched this game. You watch Valera Balogun get hurt. You watch our defense just get stripped to pieces. We're down a whole bunch of players. And you're looking at that just totally bogus VAR decision that we're going to get into. And you're looking at your friends. You're thinking to yourself, like, you're licking your lips going, you know what? If we can just keep pulling this together, you know, it looks like we kind of got it back. It looks like we've reeled it all in, right? We fixed all the problems from the Brazil friendly and from the Colombia friendly. Let's just go out and get them. Yeah, let's go out and get them. I think we can do this. If you're wondering when I'm filming those games are going to kick off in about 6 minutes. So the final results of the Copa in the group stages, the Brazil group with Colombia, who we're both expecting to go through. haven't happened. And you'd be looking at those two, and you wouldn't even care about tonight's results. You'd be looking at that game, and you'd be going, you know what? We got this. We got this. We are going to pull this off. We are going to put in a performance that's worth watching. That's worthy of it. We're finally going to do it. Except we lost Panama. So all that goes out the window because it doesn't matter. Wow, what a great game we played. Who cares? Who cares? It's too little too late. For all of the nonsense that's floating around on the internet. Okay, I haven't followed people enough to know like who liked so-and-so and who favored these players and who liked Greg and didn't like Greg and wanted Marsh and didn't want Marsh. I don't care. Everybody's got good takes. Everybody's got good breakdowns. I was listening to, Tack had a good video today where he was breaking down, the U.S. results over so many things. And like, I thought it was a good idea. I'd kind of been looking into those things. We're going to discuss a lot of that stuff because I like to give my opinions. I find myself like wanting to listen to people and then go, here's what I liked. Here's what I didn't like. Here's what I agreed with. Here's what I disagreed with. Okay. Alexi Lalas's podcast, way more enjoyable than Alexi Lalas on Fox. I get it. The man has to say the things that he has to say. Okay? He does. He's trying to get a rise. He's trying to get viewership. He's trying to do whatever. He's gotten a little bit more unhinged. He's gotten a little bit more freed, whatever. We're going to try to get into all those things. As you can tell, I'm all over the place. I'm going to continue to be absolutely all over the place. Okay? I'm going to try to do my best to just talk about this game really quick because there's a lot of other stuff that I want to talk about. We go out flying. Absolutely flying. Okay? We got a little bit of foreshadowing at the beginning with John Strong and Stu Holden saying, we got to be careful about this referee because he doesn't have a lot of experience. He's very young. This is his seventh match. Okay? These are not two teams you want to have in your seventh match. You want the Jamaica final game. You want the Panama-Bolivia game. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that game might have been worse, honestly, because we know the nature of Latin American and South American football and how brutal and, chippy and aggressive and violent some of these games get. So maybe it could have gotten more out of hand and it could have got a lot worse. But we kind of knew what was coming, okay? And one of the quotes that sticks with you, if you've grown up playing the game, that you hear your coaches say, hopefully, is you got to take the referee out of the game. And that doesn't mean that you don't think about him. It doesn't mean that you don't talk about him. That means that you put the ball in the back of the net and you make the referee not matter. If we score 2-3 goals, the referee can make as many terrible calls as he wants. At the end of the day, it's not going to matter, and we're not going to remember. Okay, but if you don't put the ball in the back of the net, you let the referee make all the decisions. And now you're going to do what we're about to do. We're about to have this rant about the referee, and you're going to remember this game, and it's going to live on for the ages. But the end result is you didn't put the ball in the back of the net. So the big asterisk and disclaimer on the rant I'm going to go on about the referee is it doesn't matter because we didn't score. If the United States scores, if we draw this game 1-1, you're allowed to be as upset with the referee as you want because maybe he did rob you. If you win the game 2-1, you're saying well, that referee was bad, right? And you're moving on to the next game. But here we are, failing to put the ball in the back of the net, failing to put up results, failing to change tactics, failing to show any kind of anything. Okay, Here's what I want to say about our tactics. Here's what I want to say about the United States national team. If Greg Berhalter has failed us anywhere, if our players have failed us anywhere, it's here. Okay? If you could go back and watch for the last 4 or 5 years, all of the games United States men have played, you will notice a trend. As soon as something happens, our switch turns off. Okay? This game, Nothing happened for like the whole first half. Okay? Almost nothing happened, right? We were flying, knocking the ball around, going forward, attacking, connecting passes, playing the kind of soccer we play. Was it over the top, unreal? No. Was it poor? No. It was good. It was world-class level soccer. It was top 10 FIFA ranked soccer. We were doing it. We're getting chances, getting opportunities on goal. And you're sitting at home thinking to yourself, we're going to win this game, which is good because you know Panama's going to win. Don't fool yourself. I'll admit it. I jumped up and down when I heard Bolivia scored. Okay? But we're talking, I thought there was a 5% chance Bolivia was going to tie that game. like a hope and a prayer on a miracle, like wish upon a star kind of game. It wasn't going to happen. When we played against Canada, Canada scored early. When we played against Jamaica, and Jamaica scored early. When we scored against Bolivia, when Uruguay scored on us, go back and look at the first moment to happen in all of those games. It is night and day. Why? Why do we have a roster where it doesn't matter what happens, good or bad? It's all of a sudden like I don't know what to do. I've never been in this position before. We've never been winning before. We've never been losing before. What do we do? How? If you're going to put blame on Greg, that's the blame that you're going to put on Greg. How do we consistently for 4 years have a group of guys on the field that as soon as something happens, they're clueless? And who do you put the blame has to go on Greg, right? I've watched these guys play overseas for their club teams. When Christian scored a goal for AC Milan, he didn't stop. He went and tried to get another one. He gets a bunch of assists. His teams have scored. What are we doing? It's just us. And you could see it time and time and time again, even in our 2-0 win against Mexico. And that was the best of all the performances. That was like we got it and we only like fell asleep for maybe like 15 minutes. And then we kind of came back online. The Bolivia game was painful. Like we got a goal and I'm waiting for it. Because I remember thinking to myself when we scored, I'm thinking, please don't do it. Like, please stay aggressive. Please go after it. It's like we don't know. It's like Greg telling the guys, like, get a goal and then let's just, there we go. Just get the keys, pack it in, pack it up. We're done here. It's like it's not golden goal. It's not first goal wins. You have to play. You have to play the whole game. You have to play the whole game. It's crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy to me. So did we play well? Yeah. We played well. It's not relevant, but we played well. Especially that first half. First 30 minutes, flying. Absolutely flying. Any other positives? I think Balogun is solidifying his spot as our starter, and I think that we can believe that because of how we all felt when he got hurt and had to come off. Than watching Pepe's performance. So the good news is we got a number 9. The bad news is, boy, we don't have anybody coming off the bench now. Now, Pepe's been good, but as we'll talk about later when we start looking at the rankings of teams that we play against, Pepe's good for when the games really don't matter. Okay? Because we're thinking now, we don't have a choice but to think this. 2026 is the next thing on our radar. Everything else is tune-ups and shake-ups and whatever. We got 2 years to figure it out. We got 2 years to take the set of guys that we have and get them there, okay? So the positives are that we're losing Ream. Maybe, yeah, that's it. We're going to lose Ream, which is probably fine because you could tell he was falling off during this tournament. He's just really not getting there. Adams coming back, thumping people, okay? But that's like really about it. I thought Reyna played well. I thought Christian played well. I thought Balogun played well, okay? I thought Weston McKennie was lackluster. Yunus Musa was horrid, absolutely horrid. Tyler Adams was great. Anthony Robinson was fine, right? Kind of like somewhere in the mid, maybe like above average, like a B grade. Scally got he picked on a little bit more than I thought he was going to, but like let's be honest, like Darwin Nunez. So like Darwin Nunez made Chris Richards look silly, and I think he was gonna make Chris Richards look silly. So I think the fact that it wasn't worse than it could have been is like a pretty decent sign. I really thought Richards could have got picked on a lot more. Those aren't great positives. I guess we didn't get blown out. We didn't get blown out losing. I mean, we almost lost like 3 defenders, honestly, right? And I'm going to count Dest. So like we're down Serginho Dest. You almost lost Scally. You almost lost Chris Richards. And then you're looking at like, well, let's just pack it in, man. This game is over. This game is absolutely over. So one thing I didn't hear anybody talk about that I want to touch on before I go into my huge, ridiculous rant about VAR and the rest of the game. I want to look at this. I'm a business person. I want to look at this, like I mentioned in the previous podcast, from a business stance, from a U.S. Soccer Federation stance, from a culture stance, from everything that the Federation stands for. Okay? If you're on the board, if you're the president, CEO, if you're the, where Gooch's position and Crocker's position, all them, you're sitting in there. Someone's got to take responsibility. This is a failure. This is a failure of epic proportions. You've lost millions of dollars, probably more, tens of millions of dollars because of this result. Okay? This is what happens if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. If you're not looking at something from the big picture, if you're not making the sacrifices now to get yourself down the road, you're doomed. And that's what happened. We invested a lot of money and a lot of talent to get the players that we have to the position that they're in right now. But from about 2 years before the World Cup, maybe a year before the World Cup, all the way through now, we've just let it plateau and we haven't tried to go anywhere. And we're just like, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. You're not going to figure it out. You had one opportunity to sell out a whole bunch of stadiums and convince the United States people, the citizens of the United States, that U.S. soccer was worth buying into. You had the commercials, you had the advertising, you had the sponsorships, you had it all. And then you go out and you put out a performance like this. I'm doing a podcast. I'm sacrificing my own personal time to talk about the U.S. men's national team. I'm hesitant to buy a ticket to Seattle. If you try to sell me a ticket to Seattle right now, I don't know if I would buy it to watch the men in the group stage in 2026 because I can't handle that letdown because I have not been convinced that if we were to play like a Bosnia-Herzegovina who wouldn't qualify, if we were to play like a Mali who wouldn't qualify, a Nigeria who probably wouldn't qualify, a South Africa who wouldn't qualify, a Cambodia, an Australia, if we were to play one of those teams, it should be another easy, like a Bolivia again. I'm not convinced we're going to win. That's not a good spot for us to be in. We're going to be the host nation. We're the first host nation to not make it out of the group for the Copa America. In a golden year with the best set of players that we've ever had. And yes, I'm going to keep saying that. And if you don't think this is the best players that we've ever had, I'm going to say something very simple. If you're looking with your eyes and you see something, and the media tells you something different, why would you not believe your eyes? If the media is telling you not to believe your eyes, you probably shouldn't believe the media. If the commentators are looking at you and saying, oh, I know we said this was a golden generation, but let's back it up. Players aren't that good. And yet you're watching them and you're going, yeah, they are. These players are that good. They've been that good. Then you should probably believe your own eyes. That's how this works. So from a federation stance, it's a huge loss. You lost the potential revenue. You might have lost sponsorships. You probably did lose sponsorships. Because you're not going to be able to convince anybody this is going to be a team worth showing up to. So from a business endeavor, you need to start making decisions that feel like a business. I'm going to get into Greg in a second. The fact that Greg Berhalter hasn't already been fired is concerning. Now, maybe they want to get all their ducks in a row. Maybe they want to make sure they have all the things. Maybe it's already a decision that's been made, and they just want to make sure they get the right time. Maybe they're waiting for the tournament to be over. Because I could see that. I could see, look, we want to be respectful of the Copa America. We're hosting it. We don't want our drama wrapped up in this. We want to have some class. We want to have, we don't want to, get knocked out and be those sore losers who are like, it's all about us. Everyone should pay attention to us. We had to fire our coach. You should feel bad for us. Maybe we're like, you know what? Let's go out with some dignity, right? We already kicking ourselves, and the world's going to keep kicking us, and we're going to keep kicking ourselves again, and, let's not beat the dead horse yet. Let's let this tournament end. So if the tournament ends, you got 3 days from the tournament end to make this announcement. If it was any NFL team, fired. MLB team, fired. NHL, fired. Premier League, fired. No hesitation. And it would have been an unspoken rule. Everybody would have known. This is like a no-brainer. Because the expectation was that you would get out of the group and you would put in a solid performance in that very first round and you'd make the semi. That was the expectation. You get blown out in group stage, you're risking your job. Or in the quarters. You get blown out in the quarters, you're risking your job. You get blown out in the group stage, you're fired. You don't get blown out in the group stage and you don't make it out, you're still fired. Pretty cut and dry. Pretty cut and dry. But we'll get into Greg in a second. Because, man. Whoa. You want to talk about my emotional roller coaster? All of this nonsense that's been going on. From having to listen to everybody else, from feeling like we're never going to be able to break out. It's just this culmination of everything, okay? To then have to deal with the crap that we had to deal with on the field. A referee that was completely out of his element, to the point that commentators were just going. I haven't listened to a game where the commentators have made comments like that, I think, in my entire life. I've never heard Lawless so brash. I've never heard Stu Holden. I mean, Stu Holden was like unhinged at one point. I have I guess I'm not like maybe like a colleague, an individual that I work with. They're a soccer fan. Their kids are soccer fans. Sent me a text message during the game saying these commentators are a little, what was the wording that they used? The commentators are hilarious and they're so one-sided. Don't you think so? I said, nope. Also, I'm a little biased, and I'm expecting my commentators to be a little biased. Yeah, they were pretty biased. They're supposed to be. Welcome to the United States. We need somebody to be. Tired of watching games where the other team just cranks us and our commentators are just like, yeah, they're playing so great and it's another goal and way to go, you did it. I couldn't be a commentator for the United States. We get scored on and just sit there in silence. Or you just hear me like ripping people up. What are you doing? Why is that guy not marked? That's what you'd hear. So it was undoubtedly the worst refereeing performance I've ever seen in my whole life. Okay? And I want to bring it over. I want to bring it over because that's what I think we need to talk about. Where is it? Come on, let's bring it over. We got to talk about this. This is horrible. This is just horrible. Okay? And I want to do more than just talk about this VAR goal. Okay? I want to talk way more about the VAR goal. Okay? For everything. From the game just getting completely out of hand, just wildly out of hand. Okay? Again, with the jersey pulling, with the late tackles, with the not having yellow cards handed out, to then this. Now look. See this angle right here? I get it. I'm not crazy. You people at home aren't crazy either. Yes, we know that angle is not directly in line with the field. Okay? We know it's not directly in line with the field. I know it's not. But you're going to tell me that if you move that camera just a little bit, if you scoot yourself just a little bit, he's somehow going to be on sides? He's not on sides. But look at what? What, in the first one? You want me to look at the first one? Look at where the red is? You want to see where this red is? There's a red line right there. Why in the first one is there a red line and in the second one there wasn't? You got something that's that close. And you're going to tell me that you know for a fact this is the literal exact moment where the ball touched this guy? And that Richard's foot is there? Again, you got to just believe your own eyes here. I don't know why they bring this one up. We just want to show, like, everybody knew Ream was offsides. Nobody was arguing Ream was offsides. They were trying to figure out if this person deliberately played the ball, and therefore, if they did, would that put them in an onside position? Okay? Look at it again. You're watching people click and drag things around with the mouse. This is insanity. It's literally insane that this goal stands. Now, if we don't have VAR, it doesn't stand. Not even close. Because the linesman on the side, there's no way his flag's not going up. Because the guy's leaning completely over the top of it. Now you get into weird situations where, well, because we have VAR, and because we got to get it this close, now we're in a situation where it's basically tied. Okay? Now, from a logical stance, I'm fine with this. I'm fine with that argument. I'm fine with going like, well, Tim, like, how do you know, like, exactly when, like, the player played it, and, like, you know, what if, like, we're not, you know, then it's just kind of up to speculation, and, like, we're just kind of clicking, and it's like half a frame, and it's really, really close. Shouldn't the tie go to the... Great question. I don't know. I haven't read that far in the rules. If you're going to tell me that the referee was like, look, it was basically tied and like the ruling on the field was it's a goal and we needed, indisputable evidence to overturn it, okay. That's fine. But my counter argument to you then, and this is why, it's just this the whole bald argument. You can go look that one up. I'll explain it in a second. My argument to that would be like, but if it was ruled offsides on the field, then would you have enough evidence to turn it to onsides? Right? So the argument works the other way. So if they're like, well, it's really, really close and it was technically ruled a goal onside, so you need indisputable evidence that he's actually offsides, then you just run the counter argument. So if the referee had ruled him offsides on the field, looking at these angles, do you have indisputable evidence that that Uruguay player is onside? The answer is no. So now we're doomed because now we're just at the mercy of whatever was called on the field, and by default on the field, it's that the referees are to do nothing. And we know that the referees are to do nothing, and we know that this is a huge, huge problem. Massive problem. Because players get hurt. Folarin Balogun is offsides. He's offsides to the naked eye. Before we instituted the semi-automatic VAR, the official's flag is up, and they're just waving their hand immediately. Not even coming close. Nobody's going into that tackle. Nobody's doing nothing. One, you allowed, does this mean that players can just throw whatever tackles they want? Because the tackle that the Uruguay player threw is, given that Balogun's in all alone, is a red card challenge. It's a 2-footed scissor tackle from behind into the goalie, and he doesn't win the ball. That's a red card. But because he's offsides, it's fine. You can do whatever you want because technically the play didn't exist. Technically, the play didn't happen because we had to back it up. It didn't happen. So now the goalie's hurt. Balogun's hurt. The defender's pretending to be hurt, and he might have got banged up. Whereas if you just put the flag up and blow the whistle, nobody throws a challenge, nobody does anything, and we're fine. We're absolutely fine. We're not going to do that. So you have a referee who doesn't know blatantly obvious stuff, who doesn't have the confidence to, when he's about to hand a yellow card out and Uruguay goes to play, to just blow the whistle, and just go like this, and just keep talking to these guys. And if they go in and they score a goal, the referee just waves them and says, like, you guys are nuts, right? And just own the game. Have the confidence to just be like, what? You guys are professional soccer players. You thought you could pull that crap? You guys know the rules. You know the rules. It's Darwin Nunez. He knows the rules. He looked at the referee. He saw the referee about to do a thing, and then he tried it. And the referee was like, with a yellow card in his hand, was like, oh, okay. What do you mean, okay? You blew the whistle. And we know he didn't take the play back because it wasn't a Uruguay free kick. It was out for a Uruguay throw-in. So not only did he make that decision, he let it go. So what? I'm sorry, we have VAR to overturn very obviously wrong decisions? So we're going to review the goal and we're going to say, nope, the goal's good. Thumbs up, the goal's good. But we don't have anybody in this guy's ear going, hey, buddy, you kind of can't do that. You're not going to shake Christian's hand. You're going to get screaming matches with players. And it should have surprised nobody that once the second half started, you were out of your mind if you thought Uruguay was going to play slower or faster than a snail's pace. Because they didn't need to. They didn't care. They weren't concerned with the score of the other game. Isn't it weird timing that Greg was like, guys, the game's tied up, and they immediately scored? The timing is not weird. It's weird that Greg did that in the first place. Because I've never seen anybody do that. Because it doesn't matter. Because the game's 1-1. Okay, so what? Are we just going to stop playing? Like, should we look at the referee and say, like, hey, you want to just call this right now? Because their game's tied. So can we just end this? Who's tied up? Oh, that's not a possibility. So then what are we doing? What's the end result here? I can't. It's really not worth it. So that brings us to the question of the hour that everybody's asking, that I've already kind of alluded to my answer to, and the question is Greg out? Is it time for Greg to get fired? Whether you like Greg or you don't like Greg, the answer to this question is yes. Okay? And I'm going to go and break down some of the coaches in just a second. We're going to head over that way. I've never been a firm defender of Greg. Greg has been my favorite coach that we've had so far. I, maybe to a fault, love my country, really take pride in having Americans doing American stuff. I've never been a huge fan of having a foreign coach because I myself couldn't coach another team, because if I ever had to play the United States, I wouldn't be rooting for the team I was coaching. And I don't think I could do that. That would be weird to be like coaching England squad and we're playing the United States in like the semifinal. And I'm like, all right, boys, we better go out there and beat them. I'd be like, man, I hope we go out there and get throttled. Like, how do I adjust our tactics just enough that, it hurts us, but people don't suspect me of doing that? So I couldn't do it. But I will say this. I'll say a couple things. From the business stance, this is a decision that you have to make. It's obvious. It's obvious to everybody. I want to have the faith and the confidence to think that U.S. Soccer is just going to say, you know what, we got to move on. And I don't know who else we're going to get, and that might be the problem. So we might keep Greg because they might be like, look, we know we're supposed to fire him, but nobody else wants to coach us. Huge problem. We got to solve that one. The other thing you need to do this for is it's like when you go down 3-0 in the first period, in the first 8 minutes, you pull your goalie because you're sending a message to the players. Like, this isn't acceptable. It's not just a goalie's fault. All you clowns out on the ice are letting this happen too. So this is a situation where it's like you fire Greg and you get somebody else. And when all the players are like, but he was our friend, we really like Greg. You didn't like him enough to play hard for him. You didn't like him enough to win. So this is your fault. It's time to wake up and play some soccer. It's time to wake up and win some games. Greg has to go. There's absolutely no other choice. Okay? There's absolutely no other choice. So we're going to head over. We're going to break down the coaches. Okay? Because I've heard a lot of talk. I've heard a lot of talk about the coaches. Okay? People saying records against things and records against whatever and da-da-da-da-da. And the reason that I needed to do this is because I am so tired. I'm so tired of listening to Alexi Lawless and Landon Donovan and Clint Dempsey and Maurice Adu and especially Hercules Gomez. Out of all the people that I thought I wouldn't have to listen to, it'd be Hercules Gomez. Who gave this guy a microphone? Who put you on a platform, buddy? The number of people that are listening to you that they have to keep slapping, they're like former U.S. men's national player. Yeah, because no one would remember that you played for us. You had that little of an impact. At least Donovan went on loan overseas. At least Dempsey played for some Premier League teams. At least they have a whole bunch of goals on appearances. Everybody else is like crickets. Who's that dude? That guy played for us? I don't remember him. Let's take a look at Greg. Let's take a look at Greg. Get Greg's grade up here. Okay, so some important things to look at. First, overall record. Okay, Greg has been the coach since 2018. Okay, after we failed to qualify for the World Cup, which is going to be super relevant because one of the coaches I didn't put on here, Bruce Arena, who coached us previous for a long time and then came back in like a year stint to try to get us in there, and with some dude I didn't follow was there for 2 years, and gosh, we didn't make it, and then he just resigned, which was smart. Resign. You did something embarrassing. So the only silver lining, I guess, in addition to this is that Greg does the right thing, and Greg doesn't wait to get fired. Greg resigns. Greg says, I have failed us. I have let us down. It is obvious the team needs to go in a new direction. Okay? I didn't hide the overall grade because you could just sit there rolling your eyes at me while I'm doing this. Look. He's 44, 13, and 15. Okay? That's a great record to have. But if all you did was play against a bunch of tier 3 rated teams and teams that weren't ranked in the top 50 in FIFA, that record's horrible. So if those games are against teams that aren't, now granted there's some in there, but you get what I'm saying. So let's look at a record against the top 25 teams. Okay? Against the top 25 teams, and here's where we got a problem. 7 wins, 13 draws, and 11 losses. Out of those 7 wins, I think 6 are Mexico. Okay? Now, if you listen to Tack, I'm not saying anything that Tack hasn't already said and already probably said better than I did. Okay? Here's where Greg got us. We used to be the team where we weren't sure. Are we going to beat these CONCACAF teams? Is it going to be a bloodbath? Is it going to be brutal? Yeah, I remember qualifying for the last World Cup. I know it got down to the wire. It was tough. It was close. We were panicked because, man, we still got to win. Like, oh my gosh, we haven't locked this thing up yet. Like, it's still that crazy. Like, this thing's not over yet. But through Nations League games and Gold Cup games, we had some of the best performances that we've had. Now, where I disagree with Tack on this is just completely trashing Mexico to discredit all the stuff that we did. Yes, Mexico's currently not the Mexico that they were before. Okay? They're not. But they're Mexico. They're our rivals. We've never done this before. We've never gone 4 or 5 years without losing to them. It's never happened. We won handedly. This is massive. Okay? Because, again, it's not just about the players and the coach. This is also about the business end of it. This is about the image end of it. If you're trying to get fans and you're trying to build people into this game, your reputation matters. To have a coach come in and take a bunch of players who statistically couldn't compete in CONCACAF. We weren't the kings of CONCACAF, right? Pulisic had the shirt. Mexico was the men in the mirror. We were the ones looking into the mirror going, we wish we could be like them. With the outlier of Canada's unreal series of qualifying, which is basically just them being better against teams that we should have spanked. We were it. And we knew we were going to be it because when the World Cup rolled around, we had the performance. Okay? And even looking at this Copa America, you're really going to go out there and say that Canada is now up top? Like, Lawless, are you serious? One of the tags in your video, I hope it was just to get views, was that Canada was now the kings of CONCACAF. They had 1 goal through 3 games. The most embarrassing group stage out of anything I've ever seen. It's about as bad as Group D in the UEFA, where everybody's just drawing all over the place and like England's on a snooze fest. We're still it. So you're not going to give the man any credit for that? Yes, he has not been able to elevate us to that final tier. Guess what? Nobody has. The United States has never been in that final tier. The reason we are all so frustrated is because we have the players to do it. So don't sit here and say, oh, they're not really a golden generation. Well, if they're not a golden generation, why are you so mad at Greg? Because Greg's doing great if these players aren't the golden generation. Greg's doing great if these players are just as good as everybody else. Because if these players are just as good as everybody else, if they're just as good as Alexi Lalas' generation, and they're just as good as Landon Donovan's generation, and they're just as good as Bob Bradley, and Jermaine Jones, and Maurice Edu, and Benny Feilhaber, and Eric Wandelowski, missing that goal, never going to live it down. Ricardo Clark giving the ball away to Prince Boateng. If they're just as good as all those guys, then Greg's great, and you have to give him credit because he did better than anybody else ever did with the same caliber of players. So if you're mad at Greg because he's not getting us to the next level, then you have to recognize that these players are better than the players we previously had. No other way around it. When Greg takes over, we're FIFA ranked 25th. We are currently FIFA ranked 13, and it's going to drop. It has to drop. Because you got grouped at COPA. Do we fall to the top 15? Maybe. Do we fall to the top maybe 17, 18? Probably not. The highest ranking that we had was 11th. Maybe there was like a split second where we were higher, but as I was perusing, that's what we found. Okay. So I gave Greg a B. And I gave him a B for the same reasons that I just said. He got us to that second to last stop. We are no longer a C-tier team. The United States is fun to watch. They're going to consistently win games. They're going to consistently perform. They're exciting. It's when we had games where we were like, oh, we're really close against Belgium. Yeah, Tim Howard's got like 18 saves. We packed the box, parked the bus, and gave up. That's not exciting to watch. Oh, but the result was, please stop talking. Okay? Please stop. That's not what I'm here for. We played against England. We dominate possession. Yeah, but it's England and a Southgate. Okay? So they had a bad manager, and they still have Bellingham, Foden, and Kane. Their entire lineup is playing for Spurs, United, and Manchester City, with a sprinkling of a couple other clubs in there. So the top teams of the Premier League table, the best league in Europe. And you're like, well, you got Southgate. You think that writes the whole thing off? We could have won that game. So let's go back and let's keep going. Let's keep going back. Jurgen Klinsmann. Remember this guy, bringing the German. Here we go. We're going to get it done. We're going to get it done. Okay? Bunch of mediocre players. Here's what Klinsmann does well. So Klinsmann starts this trend that Berhalter has built off of, that U.S. Soccer Federation has built off of really going after foreign players. So one of the things I remember about Klinsmann is when Klinsmann came in, all of a sudden, all these players came out of the woodwork that you'd never heard of. And you're like, these guys are all Americans? Why do you have a whole bunch of Americans playing overseas I've never heard of? And he started to push back and kill that MLS dynamic, okay? And when he started to do that is when things started to get rough. Because the more he pushed back on that, the more the media got upset, the more U.S. Soccer Federation got upset. And we heard a lot of talk during his reign about, MLS soccer. And how we needed more MLS starters. There was a whole bunch of nonsense that was going on in this. So I'm probably the most passionate about Klinsmann's era, but it was mostly because I was so irate and angry. Like, this is when I have the most memories of being just furious at the media 24/7 for all the dumbest stuff that they said. When they were hyping up Bob Bradley and Jermaine Jones and Clint Dempsey and all that. And it was just like, we're interviewing Landon Donovan because he just found out he's not going to be on the squad. And my friends and I are like, he should have been on the squad 2 years ago. Like, we need to get younger players in here than every tournament. Every tournament. It was like, we just played a whole team of veterans. I was like, dude, what are you doing? So I was really close to giving him a C. But he started the trend. And when I looked at it numbers-wise on paper, I mean, he's got a better record against some of these big teams, right? I mean, he's got 7 wins, just like Greg did, except his wins come against teams other than Mexico, okay? He's got more losses, and he has less draws, right? So, like, when we think about this, he played against 27 teams in the top 25, okay? Greg played against 31. So it's pretty close to the same, right? And neither one of them really did any better, okay? His FIFA ranking was horrid. We had a little spike in there for a second where we got up to 14th. We put in this is the thing that's like supporting Klinsmann is that World Cup. With the performance that we had against Portugal, with the performance we had against Belgium, with the result that we got against England, like, he got us out of the group of death. And if you compare that moment to what just happened, then you're sitting at home going like, Tim, like, you're not really giving yourself a good reason to rank Berhalter over Klinsmann. Like, correct. As far as World Cup performances go, Klinsmann's squad outperformed Berhalter's squad with significantly less talent. Okay? Now, they did it because we played a tactic. I didn't agree with the tactic. I didn't like the tactic, but the whole team was on board. We're going to try to counterattack with the likes of Dempsey and Donovan. We're really going to, we're going to let them kind of run and go after it. And then we're just going to kind of pack it in and play some defense and just play some pretty hard defense. And our defense was terrible, right? So overall record, he's got more wins. He's got a few more draws and got a lot more losses. Okay. He was around for a longer period of time. Played a lot more games. I thought that Jurgen was a coach in the wrong time. I thought that he was a coach that we needed. I thought he was a coach that had the talent and the caliber and the tactics to get us there. There was not enough give from the media and the federation. So I felt like he was just fighting a losing battle the whole time. And the longer that he was in there, the more we started to see players the media was hyping up make the starting lineup. And you just got to the point where, like, I remember sitting and I would build my starting lineup and like 9 of my 11 players would still be on the bench and they'd never come in. Right? So it's like when Stu Holden was getting ready to play, and like Stu Holden was like the best player on our team. He was leading the MLS in like tackles in the midfield and completed passes and all this other stuff. He would come in off the bench and he'd just generate opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. If Stu Holden doesn't have that horrifying tackle and like get his knee, Bolton Wanderers, think about that. The Bolton Wanderers, like what? I was a Bolton fan for a long time. I owe a lot of my excitement. I own a Stu Holden jersey. He was the player, like I always have a player in each of these generations, and I'm like, I got to get this every time a new kit comes out. He was the one. So I think if those things don't happen, if Klinsman's the coach right now, I think we start to see a lot of other things happening. Now let's go to the most fun one. Gosh, this is going to be fun. Oh, goodness, this is going to be fun. Who's left, everybody? I had to. This is kind of like a meme. You can crop this and put it up as a meme. I'm putting this up here because this is like needs to be said that we have this guy. Okay? 43 wins, 12 draws, 25 losses. Okay? Greg's 44, 13, and 15. Okay? Against top 25 teams, he's got 4 wins, 6 draws, and 13 losses. And when I went through and looked at some of these results, wow. Wow. Now, to Bob Bradley's credit, okay, and Jurgen Klinsmann's credit, their highlights, Klinsmann did have an away win to 4th-ranked Italy. Okay? That's relevant. Bob Bradley had a 2-0 win against Spain in the Confederations Cup and was up 2-0 against Brazil. And wound up losing 3-2 in the Confederations Cup final. So those are kind of important things to have. But Bob Bradley got grouped 0-3 in the Copa America that he played in. Wasn't even close. So did we just get grouped? Yeah, we just got grouped. But I thought I would put it in here. I mean, Bob Bradley was like a joke of a coach. Okay? And we got Bruce Arena, we got a couple other guys. I just thought it was important to have these up here, right? He starts with a FIFA ranking of 18. That's the highest he's going to get us, and then we just plummet. We finished with a FIFA ranking of 34. Now, we have a couple other coaches that we kind of go through and like bounce around in between and do a whole bunch of other whatever. Why am I saying all of this? Why am I going through and being like, well, I want to talk about the coaches. I want to do whatever. I'm doing this because there's one other thing that we have to talk about because it's not just about the coaches. So if this is where all of our coaches stand, where do the players stand? Okay? Where do the players stand? Because if they're going to talk and run their mouth, let's put the numbers up here. Okay? And I'm not doing this to sit here and tell you that, if you loved Landon Donovan and you loved Clint Dempsey, which I think you should, like I don't not love them. So I want to like put that disclaimer out here. There weren't great American players that I didn't love. I cheered for you and I rooted for you despite all the bitterness and frustration and stuff that I had. But to sit here and say they're not the golden generation, to put blame and point fingers and do whatever, time to put you on blast. Landon Donovan had 157 caps, 57 goals. There's an asterisk next to that. Why? Because over half of Landon Donovan's goals came from the penalty spot. United States drew a lot of penalties. He was like the only kind of quality player that we had. He took a lot of penalty kicks. There's also an asterisk next to him playing in Tier 1 leagues. Why? Because he went on loan. He played for Bayer Leverkusen. They were up there. I mean, they're kind of in that league, right? He played there for a little bit, and then he went on loan to a couple teams and kind of was just like an MLS superstar. Okay? Leeds, him and Clint Dempsey are tied in United States history for the most goals. Landon Donovan is currently there at the top, 57 goals, 58 assists. Played for a long time. Won 7 or 8 Gold Cups, I believe. I think maybe 6 or 7 Gold Cups in his span. Whether he started in all of them and played in all of them is not relevant. He was on the squad. He was listed on the squad in part of them. Clint Dempsey, 141 caps, 57 goals. Same number of goals as Landon Donovan. Did it in less games. It's relevant. 21 assists. Okay? Putting Hercules Gomez up here just because he wants to bash the players and bash the coach and do whatever, man, had 24 caps, 6 goals, and 4 assists. And like I said before, most Americans don't remember he played for us. Like, I forget he's a player most of the time. I really try not to turn on ESPN FC. Every once in a while, the highlights come up. And it's mostly just like, he's like if you took the worst part of Alexi Lalas and like created another human being, it's just all clickbait all the time. Alexi Lalas, 96 caps, 10 goals. putting him up there because I just wanted to see I want you to see the despair. He didn't play in a Tier 1 league. I don't think he won any Gold Cups. He might have. I didn't really look that far. The hard part about Alexi Lalas is that it was so long ago. This is not an aged shot at him. It's just it was so long ago. U.S. soccer was still kind of on the rise. So the positive parts about Alexi Lalas is he is still relevant. I'm giving credit where credit is due. I listen to the man's podcast. I'm subscribed to it. I enjoy listening to him and David Mossy talk and have conversations. He genuinely wants to better U.S. soccer. He genuinely wants to see it grow. And he's stuck around. He's like one of the players from that generation that you still know about. Okay? But if you're going to sit here and say these aren't the golden generation, if you're going to say your lines about the tattooed, overpaid millionaires and stuff, I mean, he likes it. He likes being the villain. I just figured his stats would be up here. Okay, so now let's look at Christian. He's played in 71 games, 30 goals. He's played in less than half the number of games of Donovan and Dempsey, and he has more than half the number of goals that they had at that point. So Christian's more than on pace to break the goal scoring record. 16 assists. He's already close to breaking Dempsey's. I mean, he's Captain America. He's got the nickname Captain America. When he came on the very first game that I watched him come on when he played against Mexico, he was a terror on the left-hand side. He was like 16, 18 years old, something like that. It was crazy. Got to put my boy Michael Bradley up there. Just got to put him up there. Stats speak for themselves. I mean, gosh, he was more the eye test person. I've just never seen a worse central defensive midfielder in my whole life. Think about him compared to Tyler Adams. It's unreal. And then I put Balogun up here. I needed to put Balogun up here because if I have a Hercules Gomez who's only played 24 caps, I'm going to put Balogun up there who's only got 14 because, I mean, he's already got 5 goals and 3 assists. He's finding his form. He's getting there. So for somebody again like Gomez to make the comments that he's making and be like, well, this guy that just walked onto the national team who's only played 14 games, he's already playing and representing better than you. And it's a lot of the strikers that we had. Like, I think Balogun's outperforming a lot of them. And I don't even remember half of their names. Like, I think he's outperforming Zardes. I think he's outperforming, my goodness, there were so many of them that had just such strange names during that time frame. Charlie Davies, I think he's outperforming. Wondolowski's outperforming. There's a lot of players that they're outperforming. To wrap it up, because there's been a lot and I've been all over the place. And it's tough. I mean, I feel for everybody else. Everybody's just kind of exhausted. It was tough listening to all the players and listening to how exhausted they were and how tiring they were. The content creators, everybody, we're just so tired. Time to take a break. The United States grouped Copa America. Later this month, the Olympic team will play. I guess it gives us something to watch and go for, but I would expect Greg Berhalter to be out. It's the right decision. Whether you like Greg or not, this is the right decision to make. You need to bring in a new head coach. Way too much is on the line. Way too much is riding on the line. This is not any other team. This is an opportunity to host a World Cup, to put the United States team on the map, to start finally beating Tier 1 level teams. Okay? It really is. I don't think Berhalter and the Confederation have been able to schedule enough games for him. One of the things, as I looked it up, is that Klinsmann and Bradley both played against more higher-rated teams. Yes, they weren't all in the top 25, but we were frequently playing friendlies outside of CONCACAF and against higher-level teams in Europe. Whereas, and I know that we had COVID and some weird stuff happened. So, obviously, not everything is all sunshine and rainbows for Greg, but I don't know. That's where I'm going to leave it. That's where I'm going to wrap it up. I know a ton of people are going to disagree with me, maybe agree with me. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Listen, I appreciate you tuning in. If you like this video, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell so that you get notified. I hope everybody has a blessed 4th of July and gets to enjoy it. It's kind of a bummer that we're not going to be cheering for the red, white, and blue, but you know what? We're always going to bleed it. We're always going to go for it. So until next time, let's go USA.